And good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to see so many clients, colleagues, and friends of the firm here today. But if you are just getting to know Citrin Cooperman, we are a top 20 professional services firm exclusively focused on serving middle market businesses and high net worth individuals. With 31 US offices and thousands of professionals, we are known for our entrepreneurial spirit and client-focused approach to accounting, tax, and advisory services. Our recently launched private company performance report provides insights and opportunities gathered from a survey of more than 1,000 senior leaders of private companies. There's a QR code on your table that you can scan to get access to this report and learn about the outlook for these companies. As Stacy said, I'm Laura Crowley. I'm a partner in the Florham Park office, just up the road. I lead the audit department and the New Jersey Manufacturing and Distribution Industry Practice Group. Some of my other roles are I'm a member of the AICPA's Women's Initiative Executive Committee, and I'm also a member of the Executive Women of New Jersey. So it's my great pleasure to be able to moderate this event today, highlighting women. This year, I also launched a networking and discussion series for women, and we held our first meeting in March. And I'm really grateful to see some of the women who joined that session here today as well. We plan to have another meeting sometime later this summer. This is by far my favorite Citrin event, and I see some very familiar faces, so I know some of you feel the same. And I can tell that you're going to really enjoy learning from our amazing panelists and hear about them and their stories. So with that, I would like to welcome our panelists to the stage now. First, Tami Fersko, Chief Operations and Supply Chain Officer of Centric Brands. Lisa Ballerini, President of Montana Construction. And Rosaura Bagolie, Assemblywoman of District 27. You'll have to turn those mics on. Rosy, if you want to grab the mic off of the podium, you can bring that up with you. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here this morning and for agreeing to be on this panel. And we're really excited to get to learn from each of you and hear your stories and get some inspiration. So let's get started. So let's each take a minute or two to just give us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today. So I'm going to start with Rosy.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Didn't know I was starting. My name is Rosaura Bagolie. I am the Assemblywoman for the 27th Legislative District, right next door, Livingston, Melbourne, Short Hills, West Orange, Clifton, Montclair, Roseland. I was almost missing Roseland. During the day, I am a Principal Superintendent of Schools for school districts here in New Jersey. Some people were not from New Jersey today. I was like, Assemblywoman in New Jersey. I am a school administrator. I've been in school teaching 25 years. Starting in September. I am the proud mother of 3 sons that are here with me today, and I'm just happy to be here and included in having this panel conversation because I think it's very important. So on top of that, I brought my interns with me. Many of them are female interns just starting out in their lives, and it's important for them to hear the voices of other women who are sitting in this room and how we got here, but how they can get even further. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, go ahead, Lisa.
I don't know how to figure this out. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Ballerini. I'm the president of Montana Construction. Montana Construction was a small family-owned business. We are a larger family-owned business now. We specialize in sewer and water infrastructure. It doesn't sound that glamorous, but it pays the bills. And I'm here to talk about my story because it is a rarity for a woman to be in construction. Not as rare as it used to be, but when I started 30 years ago, it was pretty rare. So thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. And Tami.
Good morning. First, thank you very much for inviting me to be a panelist. Very pleased to be here. I am also a proud resident of Livingston, New Jersey. And I have two incredible children, a junior in college and a daughter who's about to graduate high school. Started out actually in banking and pivoted to apparel accessories. Spent my career in consumer products as a chief financial and operating officer. Don't want to say how long because that would make me feel a little bit old. And so it's been a real journey of understanding the value of advocating for yourself as a woman in business. And really pleased to be here and also share my story.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So Women at the Wheel is somewhat unique as we bring together women who have actually never met before this morning. And while each has their own story and pathway to how she got here to where she is today, both personally and professionally, there are always common themes that emerge among them. So we want to highlight both the similarities and the differences to tell the compelling narrative of what it means to be a woman leader today. So as we said, each woman here is a leader in their organization and their communities, but they took very different paths to get here. So let's start with Lisa. Lisa, could you talk about your journey into the world of construction?
Okay, so my journey happened really organically. When I was in high school, my father had a construction company that didn't do well. So during that time, my future was kind of a question mark. But I was able to get a scholarship for fashion for Berkeley College of Business in Woodland Park. As we know, it was West Patterson. But, and I was going there, and then my dad one night, I remember I was getting ready to go out, 19 years old. I think we were gonna go up to Nanuet and maybe do some underage drinking or something. And he stopped me and he said, Lisa, can you help me with something? I said, okay, what is it? And he said, I need you to, do you know how to do payroll and prepare a bid? And I said, well, I learned payroll in business school, so I said, show me a bid. And basically that's a proposal to put in a price and had all these forms in it, but it looked like a fill in the blanks. And I said, Dad, I could do this. It's fill in the blanks. And I said, but you'll give me whatever answers I don't know. And he said, yes. And I said, okay. And then he goes, okay, I'm gonna fire Joanne. So he had a secretary that was coming part-time because the office was in our house in one of the 3 Italian kitchens. And that's how I started working from him. So that was my first day on the job, I guess. And then I just really liked it. And I just learned really the business by being his sidekick, right? So I learned how to go pick up plans and specs, and I learned about bonding, and I learned about banking and cost accounting, and whatever he didn't know, I learned. And he appreciated me and saw something in me. And that's how I got my start in construction.
Yeah, it's excellent. Thank you. And let's move to Rosy. Rosy, how did you get to where you are today as an assemblywoman and a school administrator?
My career started out of necessity. I am the youngest of 4 girls, grew up very poor in the city of Elizabeth. I started teaching when I was 18 years old. Seton Hall, I went to Seton Hall University, not really knowing how much Seton Hall cost, but it was like my guidance counselor said it would be good for me. So I said, okay. When I went to Seton, and then I started looking through the catalog, and it said that I could get a 50% scholarship if I taught at a Catholic school. I was a communications major, never thought that I would ever go into teaching. And I found myself a job 2 days a week in Catholic school, and that got me a 50% tuition in college. And then I just kept teaching ever since. So it just, I got a call, are you graduating? Because the Abbott birth decisions are happening, and we need preschool teachers. Can you graduate? One of my teachers from high school called me, and I said, I think I can graduate, and I graduated with my BA in 3 years. Again, not because I was this whiz, just out of necessity for needing to work and support myself. And that's really how my career took off. It was really a matter of grit, determination, and a high level of need to get out of a world of poverty that I did not want to stay in. Education has always been the catalyst to opening my doors for a better future, and that's what my mission has been for 25 years, to teach the kids that I touch every day.
That's amazing. I would say I'm the only one of my siblings, there's 4 of us, that did not choose a career in education. So I really commend you for that commitment, because I know it's really hard and often underappreciated. So thank you. And Tami, you've had a lot of different roles throughout your career. Could you kind of talk through your path?
So when I came out of college, I went through a banking training program, and the people who performed at a high level got to choose their path. So 2 people who got the choice chose technology. That was what was hot and sexy back then. And I chose asset-based lending, and that's because I enjoyed understanding the cash flow, tangible assets. I got the wonderful opportunity to be on an account called Sun Apparel, a private label denim manufacturer. They had the ability to get the polo jeans license from Ralph Lauren, but I needed to do a very quick and detailed underwriting for them to be able to fund inventory and a big advertising commitment. Flew around the country, syndicated a big transaction for them. And the principals, I thought, were taking me out to a Knicks game and to dinner. Yes, I am a big Knicks fan, go New York.
Well, now's your time.
That's right. But they were asking me to join the company. They wanted to seed young talent for succession. I said, why not? I could always go back into banking, but this is a pretty unique opportunity, and it was probably the most important pivot in my career. Started out as basically their CFO, but they wanted me to understand the operations, so I scheduled manufacturing for jeanswear for 18 months, ran a distribution center that was pretty advanced, had a sortation system and things that were not as prevalent back then. The polo jeans business grew to over $500 million in under 3 years. We did a leverage buyout. We were about to go public, and then we were acquired by a company called Jones Apparel Group. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that name. I was the chief financial officer of the biggest segment of their business for a good part of my 17 and a half years. In my last 5 years, I was in the C-suite, and all of the financial and operating leaders reported in, and I learned a lot about being a platform leader, inspiring leadership, and really listening and understanding that your best practice may not be the best practice. Sold the company, became the president of Li & Fung US. I wanted to take that operational and financial skill set and round it out with a lot of front-end experiences. I did that for almost 6 years, and was traveling the world quite a bit, and decided that I really wanted to travel a little bit less, and took the role as Chief Operating and Supply Chain Officer of Centric Brands, about a $2.5 billion company. Was responsible for all global supply chain functions. Just to give you a perspective, 350 million units, 220,000 SKUs, big company, $220 million budget, really challenging role. Actually just wrapped up at Centric, and just really thrilled to have navigated a journey of different experiences that brought me to where I am today.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for sharing your stories. It's really clear that each of you faced some inflection point that kind of changed maybe the trajectory you thought you were going on, and brought you to where you are today. I think we often don't recognize that's happening in the moment, right? It's only when we look back and we see oh, that was the point, right? When your dad asked you to help, you weren't like, this is gonna be my career.
No.
But now you look back,
Never saw it
same
coming.
with education and, Tami, with your career. So I think it's really important that we see that perspective. So we're gonna move on to the next topic, which is mentorship. So I think whether formal or informal, long-term, short-term, many of us have been blessed to have mentors who helped us navigate difficult situations or really given us a push when we needed to get outside of our comfort zones. I think for me at least, mentors have recognized maybe that we hit that inflection point maybe before we did, right? And helped us kind of navigate through that. Curious from the audience, how many of you have had mentors that have helped you through your career? Looks like a majority, so it's great. So let's hear from you guys about your mentor experiences. Rosy, when you first became a principal, you had talked about your supervisor who was one of your strongest supporters. Could you talk more about that and how that?
So I think I became a supervisor at a high school, and the school principal became a bit of a mentor. She was tough. I mean, she was really tough, and I was a newbie administrator. It's always like a little hazing period when you start something new in education. But she was a true mentor in teaching me how to just get over those humps and those obstacles. Teaching, you're in the classroom with your kids, you get to know your parents, you spend the year with them, your heart has to give them back at the end of the year. When you go into administration, it's a little bit different. you're with the parents, you're now in charge of your peers, right? You're in charge of your teachers. And one of the biggest things she said to me is find your power brokers, find those individuals within the system that can help you navigate, and then remember to push, but also remember to stroke. You know, you push, 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 and then you stroke, 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 and you let individuals know that I'm here, I have a job to do, but I'm also here to help you. And that stuck with me. Even those words are still with me today as I navigate the world of the Assembly. Who are my power brokers? How do I get through my day-to-day so I can get a bill passed? How do I reach my constituency so that I am doing the best job for them? How do I stroke and push so that I can get the needs of my district met? So those boards really served me well, not just entering the world of administration at the school level, but also in a place of leadership in the state of New Jersey.
Great, that's a great example. Tami, you mentioned specifically that your mother was really a source of inspiration for you. Could you talk about that?
Well, first of all, I'm really proud that my mom is here to share this moment with me. So,
Where's mom?
Where's mom?
mom's back there.
Wait, yeah, mom.
So I grew up as the only child of a single parent, and my mom had to go back to work after having stayed home for a number of years. And she went into banking in a little bit of a different way, started out running a program, ultimately became senior vice president in charge of international trade, which is letter of credit, and things that we're obviously all very familiar with. And I think for me, she really taught me the value of controlling your own destiny, being independent. Something we talked about at the event in March was understanding financial literacy. I think it's really important to grow up and understand financial literacy at whatever level that means for you, your children. And she's always been a source of inspiration and also a sounding board. Being a woman growing up in the industry has had its challenges. It's a male-dominated industry in terms of leadership. And so I'm so thrilled to have had that mentor that has not only formed me from a young age, but continues to inspire me as I grow into different stages of my life.
Excellent. And welcome Tami's mom. I'm glad you're here. Lisa, your early career was really driven by a need to support your family and grow their business. So what was that like?
Well, it wasn't easy, but it was almost what you said, Ro, was like about, necessity, right? So my dad had went out of business, and there was 5 siblings, and my youngest sister, Amanda, at the time, I think was 2 or 3, because I remember her being a toddler while all this was going on. And we saved the house, but we almost lost, but we had a mortgage to pay. And that was what motivated me to do everything that I did. But I also enjoyed it. Like when I started working with my dad, I really enjoyed it. Learning the business, sorry, I'm like getting emotional. But anyway, so it wasn't easy at first, but it was worth it. And I think the youth helped me because we had energy. I was 19, my brother Vin was 20. My younger brother Dominic was in his teens, he came aboard later. But we had that energy, like what you could do in your 20s, I couldn't do it today. I couldn't do. We would work hard all day and then party all night. And, I remember my brother parking his car in the front of the yard, like after being out and then going to work, So we had the need, we had the drive, we had my dad, who was, an uneducated immigrant, but no one smarter. And he was a great people person. And that's why people, I think, helped him and gave him work after everything. They knew he had 5 kids. They knew he was struggling. And he taught me how to treat employees well, work with people. You don't always have to be right. Let the engineer think they're right. It's okay. They're the one that signs the voucher, Lisa. And I'm like, okay, you got a point there. So, but it was hard because we didn't have any money, so I learned about banking. And I had a relationship, like I said, with now Bank of America. My credit line manager's here. And I remember going to the branch and saying, like, Kathy, how can I get credit? We need money, because we would spend all our money and then you don't get paid till a month to 2 months later. And she said, well, you need credit, so like maybe put Vin on the books and start. And so I learned all about how to build credit, and now the first line was $25,000, that credit line. Now we have a $10 million credit line with Bank of America. So it was just learning, but it was the need of family that helped inspire me, and still does to this day. Like, both of my sisters got a college education. I'm so proud of that, and stuff like that. And all my nieces and nephew are going to school, so it's beautiful.
Thank you all, I appreciate it. It's clear that family and necessity were definitely inspirations and motivation for each of you. Okay, so since this event is Women at the Wheel, we really want to hear how you perceive that being a woman has impacted your career. So Tami, you mentioned that you received maybe some choice comments when you had been the only woman in the boardroom. So what is that like, and how did you respond, or how do you respond?
I would say being a woman has been a positive and a challenge, so I don't want to make it all negative. I do remember early in my career having some people say, after I had a family, oh, what time should I make the meeting? Do you have to be home and cook dinner by 8? Or, things about whether or not I'd be available. And I'd say, I'm the same as you. Just make the meeting and I'll be there. Being in the boardroom, so I've been on a number of boards, both public and private, and one of my favorite stories is I was the only female in the boardroom, and we're having a heated discussion, and one of the board member curses. And he looks at me and he goes startled and he goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And I turn to him and I go, F you. And I did it for shock value, but I just did it basically to say, it doesn't matter that I'm a woman in the boardroom. I am exactly the same as you are. And so I think, I've had to deal with some challenges, but I also think it's positives because I think I've, been able to prove that it didn't matter who I was and what gender I was, but what I brought in terms of value to the company or the board. So I encourage everyone in the room to continue their journey and feel very confident about what they bring to the table.
Thank you. I hope Mom covered her ears for that one. But Rosy, I think there's a bit of a dichotomy, I guess, between how women are treated between your two roles, right? Your school role and your assembly role. Can you talk a little about that?
I was reading the transcript of what I had said during the interview, and I'm sitting here going, no, not necessarily true. Being a school superintendent, I'm not sure about being a supervisor. Certainly there's women principals, but there's about 578 school districts in the state of New Jersey, and I can name that 5 women are Latino female superintendents in the state. It's definitely still a role that is filled by men, and when parents come to me, they're like, who else is above you? There's no one else above me. You're looking for a man, you're not gonna find him. The Board of Education only has 1 man in it. Sorry. This is who it is. This is where the buck stops here. So it's hard when you are in that administrative role. They're always looking, who's the next person above you? In the assembly is a little different. In the role of being an assemblywoman, when I walk into Trenton, I don't necessarily feel that. Although when I sit on the Financial Institutions Committee, when I first started that committee, I was the only woman who sat on the Democratic side, and there was 1 Republican woman who sat on the other side, and they said, we sat you right across from each other because we want to see you go at it, and we just became really great friends. So it just never happened. We just really became really great friends. But politics is different. Politics is a whole different thing. Doing the job of the assembly, I walk into the State House, I feel respected. I feel like my voice is respected. I feel like I'm a member of a community of 80 individuals in the assembly who are going to be there to make a difference no matter, still in New Jersey, you may not see that in the federal government, but in the world of New Jersey assembly, at least I feel this way. When I walk into the room, whether we're Democrats or Republicans, that doesn't matter. We're there to do the job of the people, and we are still very courteous to one another. Politics is a different animal. Women still have a very difficult time navigating politics, whether it's fundraising. It's very different when a woman makes a call and says, hey, can you fund my campaign? and there's a woman on the other side of that call. I've learned, I had an assemblywoman who was a mentor, said to me, you have to take on a new persona and become like, I'm Delilah. And when you make that call, you make sure that, you put on that alter ego and you ask for what you need. We weren't trained to ask for that. As women, I don't think we were trained to ask, especially men, to give us money to run campaigns. And when we're in a room of politics, it's still a very male-dominated world. Who's at the top? Who's the chair? Who's making the decisions in the world of politics? So I really have had to learn to have a lot of chutzpah, to have tenacity, and be that difficult woman. They call you difficult. Or they say you don't smile enough. Or, they use that nice word that you call women when they're not being nice. In the assembly, very nice, but when you're in politics, you have to learn to put on very tough skin, learn how to navigate a room, learn how to be tough as nails, and make sure that your voice is being heard as a woman. We don't have that a lot in politics. Sorry, that's my take. I can make a joke and make you all laugh.
No, I appreciate that perspective because most of us only see that world from sort of the outside and not the inside. Lisa, so construction obviously has a reputation for being a very male-dominated industry, but I think your experience has been, maybe didn't necessarily reflect that in all ways, so can you go into that?
Yeah, just a little. I mean, it's a little male-dominated, but I think for me it was different because I worked alongside my dad and my brothers. So when I went somewhere, I was with them. So no one's really gonna mess with me, kind of, with my dad sitting there. This Italian guy in a leather jacket, no one really bothered me. But at the end of the day, when I started leaving the office more, because I was the only person in the office, so I was doing everything, but then when I started going to pre-construction meetings or doing things, I noticed it could go either way, right? And I could either soften the room, or someone could just be pissed, like, why is she here? Like, what does she know, But I think as I got older, and when I was younger, I always wore like a black suit, blue shirt, white blouse, hair up tight. Like I always wanted to look like, don't notice me, that I'm a girl. Now I wear whatever that I want. Excuse my language, wear whatever I want. But back then I just wanted to blend in, right? I just wanted to be there and do my job. But I think as I got more confident and got more involved and people got to know me, your reputation precedes you, right? So it would be like, well, don't mess with Lisa. Like she's not here to fool around. Like, she's here to work just like us. And I think I always led with that. And that's what I try to tell young women. If you lead with anything but what you're there for, that's what you're going to be known for. So don't lead with that. Lead with the same agenda that the two guys sitting across from you are leading with. And I do sit on like the board of the UTCA. I'm the only woman on that board. And that's the Utility and Transportation Contractors Association. Those are all big, heavy highway guys and utility companies and the big boys of the industry. And, but I have to say they're all very respectful and all that. And I sit on the board of the New Jersey Alliance for Action. That's pretty much male-dominated as well. But as I got older, I think I got respected. But I have sat in meetings where an engineer would look at everyone else except me, and I was the one talking, But I try not to take it personally because, like you said, you gotta have tough skin if you wanna be in this. And I'm in it, and I'm in it to win it, so I don't really care.
Yeah. So research from McKinsey, Deloitte, and others have really pointed to gender disparity in leadership in the United States and around the world. But I think we can hear from our panelists that they've displayed, confidence in meeting the challenges and, stood up to those and are changing the narrative, really. So kudos to all of you for that. So we really appreciate it, and we appreciate you sharing that. So we're coming to our last question, and then after this, we'll open it for audience questions. So start to think if you have questions for our panelists. So one thing that really became clear as we met with each of these women prior to today was how committed each of them are to growing future generations, right? Both men and women. So let's talk about the future of your fields and how you're helping to guide today's young people to be tomorrow's leader. So I'm gonna start with Tami on this one.
I think my advice to people growing up in their career, first and foremost, is do your job and do it the best you can. very often people get caught up in external influences. I've gone through acquisitions, divestitures, tariff challenges, you name it. And it's just always do your job and do it to the best of your ability. Be involved. Don't just be involved in the thing that you are there to do technically. Be involved in your organization. Women's Initiative Network is something that many companies have. So be involved. Self-advocate. Really stand up for yourself. Nobody's going to advocate better for you than yourself. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I think people really appreciate when you're growing up in your career to be asked the question. First, most people like to talk. I always appreciate when someone comes to me and says, tell me about your career, or can you explain to me why you made that decision? So ask questions, and if you're uncomfortable, find someone you're comfortable with to talk to. And as I said, self-advocate, do your job to the best of your ability, and be involved.
Thank you. Rosy, what about you?
My role today is a little differently. I try to empower the next generation by being the person in the room that makes the decisions for them, whether it's through legislation. So as you know, there's a huge teacher shortage going on right now, not just in the state of New Jersey, but across the nation. And writing legislation that opens up a pipeline so that we can get more teachers interested in teaching. I do believe that there's still people out there that see teaching as a calling for themselves, but don't necessarily see a way of getting there, or we've made it too difficult for individuals to want to enter the teaching profession. So a lot of the legislation that I'm focused on is on education and opening up the teacher pipeline and making it more accessible to future. But also, I think I have Genesis as my chief of staff, by the way. She runs my legislative office and does an amazing job. We have 15 interns. We have 15 interns coming into the office between now and the end of the summer. And she wants to kill me sometimes because I don't know how to say no when a student wants to come in and learn the world that we navigate in legislation. So whether it's opening the doors for students who want to learn more and having them come in and intern in the office, have them write legislation themselves that I'll put forth. But it's also about teaching them that networking is something I never did. I was never good at the networking part. I was good at the work part, like I was a workhorse, but I was never good at, hey, how are you? I'm Rosy, and what do you do? The networking part of it wasn't within me. Even when Jen and I first started, I would be in the corner of the room and like, do I really have to talk? But teaching, in the kids that come into my office, networking is super important. Getting to know other people, those things will open the door. Grab the card. You don't know if that's the person that is going to open the door for you in the future. Make sure that you stay connected. And I'm always willing, most people have my cell phone number because if you need me, I want you to pick up the phone and call me. She hates it when I don't know if she hates it, but I've told it so many times. My chief of staff was my 7th grade student, and she stayed connected. And she's a young attorney, and when I called her, she's very smart, I called her, I said, I think I'm winning this little election, I'm gonna need a chief of staff, do you wanna come and work for me? And she said, when's the election? I said, like 2 weeks, she waited 3 weeks. She wanted to make sure, I won the election, she's a smart girl. And she's been with me ever since, but it's because she stayed connected, right? I always tell, network, stay connected, take the card, listen to the person in the room, take in whatever they have to offer, whether it's positive or negative. All those things will move you forward in life. And keep in touch. Those are things that I'd like to teach the individuals that come to me in the future.
Excellent, thank you. And what about you, Lisa?
Well, I think the advice that I would give to anybody really is, and I think it helped me because of my lack of education in the field I was in and experience at the time, was go with your gut. Like when you are unsure, like, do I really want to work here anymore? Like this boss, I don't really like, you know it. Your answer is in your stomach. You know it. Go with your gut. It's an instinct. That's why God gave it to us. That is going to help you make decisions when you're wavering, because the truth is you know what you want. You have to figure out how to get there, but follow your gut. That's what I would tell everybody.
Good advice. I think we do always know, and then we try to second guess it, right? And be like,
Or
well,
justify it, yeah.
that's not really what's causing the stomach ache, but. Well, I want to thank each of you, Rosy, Tami, Lisa, for sharing your stories, your strategies, your insights with our audience this morning. So I think you've given us some really great inspiration and also hopefully some introspection. So now it's time for me to stop talking and hear from questions from all of you. Anyone have a question? And we can bring the mics around. No question? Question over here.
I'm laughing as you're saying this, and so is my chief, because my retirement date is 9/1/2026. And I kid with it, and I know the date because every teacher knows their retirement date. Once we hit the 25-year mark, that's it. That it's not that we will, it's that we can, and we have a choice, and choice is important. I can tell you, I can't tell you where my 5-year plan is. I still love what I do during the day. But I love what I'm doing outside of that, and right now I'm just, basking in that moment. 5 years from today is a difficult thing for me to imagine because my kids would already, one I think will be out of college, hopefully, B'ezrat Hashem, and the twins will be hopefully juniors in college. So for me, 5 years is an outlook of like, where's life taking my kids? Because I'm going with them. So we'll see where life takes me. I can't think that far right now.
What about you, Lisa?
I don't know, some mornings in construction, I'm like, maybe tomorrow would be a good day to retire. There's a lot going on, and I feel like I've been doing it for so long that I'm ready, but at the same time, what would I do all day? I always say Montana was my first baby, and before I had kids, I lived, breathed, everything was Montana, every day. And then I had children, and I remember, like, at that point, I was still in the office doing everything. I hadn't hired a lot of employees. And it was like, well, what are we going to do about payroll? I was still doing payroll in-house by myself. And I'm like, well, I don't know. My brother's like, but you're having a baby. Like, we need somebody else to pay the guys, So I don't know, but it's looking nicer and nicer. But I don't know. Same way you feel. I'm not sure yet, but it would be nice to travel, do a lot more of this. Like, this is more fun than the day-to-day grind. So maybe something like that. Maybe actually start a mentorship program or something like that.
So it's interesting. I feel like most of my adult life, I aspired to grow the corporate ladder. And now that I've achieved many of my goals and objectives, I feel like I want to now help the future grow. And I just went to, I don't know if many of you have heard of Jen Sherman. She's a Peloton instructor, and she had this purposeful pivot. And I feel like I'm kind of at that stage of purposeful pivot. What do I want to do next in terms of board work, mentorship? Definitely not ready to hang it up, but ready to do something different and meaningful in a different way.
Great. Any other questions out there? I know there's some. All right. Amy's bringing you a mic.
I'm Jules. I work for Citrin Cooperman. Lisa, something that you said really resonated with me as far as what you lead with is what you're going to be known for. And I'm still fairly new into my career. And I've worked 2 different places, and I found the first job I ever had, I led with, if people like me, they'll respect my work and respect what I do.
You thought I had an answer? I stopped thinking, it gets to a certain point, and I don't want you to think it's because of age. You said I'm just starting out. But I guess it gets to a certain point, you worry less about whether people will like you and more about what the mission is. At least that's for me. Even being a politician, you would think, oh, I'm worried about people liking me. I'm at the other side of my life now where I feel that's not as important as getting the mission and the work done, and everything else will fall into place. My leadership style is one that I want to get the work done, and the work has to get done, and then we can play and have fun and take our time. But I don't think you get to where we are today by being individuals who are worried about what other people think. We are more worried about at least I am more worried about what has been entrusted to me to complete. And once my task is done, then, not saying it's a little complicated because you want to worry about the people that are with you and around you and always wanting to keep, I always say I'm only as good as the individuals that surround me and make me who I am. But not necessarily anymore, caring about whether people are whispering about me or what they're saying about me or, what tomorrow is going to bring as a result of this. This is a decision I made. I believe it's the best decision. I'm going to lead with it. Not everyone's going to be happy with it, but we're going to move forward, and whatever happens in the end, that's what it is, and I take responsibility for it. That's my worry today.
I think it's great. You have a big personality, and I wouldn't minimize or dull your shine at all. I think my advice to you would be authentic, because when you are your true self, you're going to have people that look, I have people that like me, I have people that don't like me. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they think of me. So be your authentic self, and you will have people gravitate towards you. Like they think, just because I'm at this point in my career that I have to act a different way. I'm still Lisa Sante Ballerini from Pagoda, New Jersey. Like that's it. Did you? So we got to talk after. But so it's a small 1 square mile town that no one's ever heard of in Bergen County, and I'm just myself. I can't put on an air of something I'm not. And you should just be yourself. And you do a great job. And that combination is going to get you wherever you got to go.
I kind of have to echo what Lisa said. I mean, I've always, again, do your job and do it well. And I think that is what people ultimately respect you. But I've never changed who I am, ever. And if I'm not the right person for you because I can't be myself, then I'm in the wrong place. And I honestly, I treat the person who opens the door and answers the phone the same as I treat people in the boardroom. I've never been a political internal climber. I've just done a good job and been my authentic self.
Yeah, I think, well, don't worry, Jules, because we do like you, so. But I think there is sometimes this narrative out there about, what a woman leader, a strong woman leader looks like, and I think we have to dispel all of that. Like, each of us are a unique individual. We bring our own unique talents, our own unique style to every situation, and we just need to learn to respect that from one another and not try to put people into a box. Well, does she look this part? Does she act this part? That's not really the goal at the end of the day. All right, who else has a question? There's some questions over here.
I think the microphone's working now.
And this has been great. I love hearing from powerful women. My biggest challenge, I'm wondering if you feel this way, is technology. I feel like the needle is ahead, no matter how hard I'm trying to struggle through using AI in my career, using technology. The younger people just grasp it quicker, and it makes me feel that I'm behind. And I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I see that this is going to be a success moving forward. And I'm wondering how you are all handling technology. So you're afraid of are you grasping it all?
I can.
Helping you?
So I'm with you. Technology has definitely changed. I think the most important thing is to recognize that the way you did things isn't necessarily the way you're going to do things. Technology is real. Technology is a facilitator. It's an enabler. I've learned to connect myself with people who are more in tune with what is the most advanced technology and have them help me. I am not going to be the technology leader in the room. I'm not. I didn't grow up that way. So I recognize that. I connect myself and try to be as up to date in what can help me do my job the best that I can, even if I'm not the one driving it. But technology is really an enabler. And you also have to recognize that technology is not the be-all, end-all. Technology doesn't make decisions, people make decisions. And so I think that's a really important part of understanding the value of technology as well.
I agree with her entirely. I have younger women in the office that I've hired, and I go to them, and I'm like, what's the fastest way to do this? I know what I needed to know to get through my day when I was doing the daily tasks. But now I go to them, and I lean on them, and they'll come to you for other things that they don't know, right? But lean on them, take a course, but everyone is with you. It has moved so fast. I mean, my 12-year-old son knows how to do things that I don't know how to do. I'm turning into my mom now. Like, you know, it is what it is, you know? It's going so fast. So I think we can all relate to that. I mean, I can for sure.
I think I'm okay with technology. Am I okay with technology? I think I'm okay. You know what it is with me? Probably, but I think it's because I'm still, I still want to learn, and I'm very, very independent, and I don't want to count on someone. So I'm still like, I learned, you know, Canva is very big in my world, so I had to learn how to do it, and now I'm like the Canva queen. And my husband says, you really need to keep doing that. And I go, yes, because I enjoy it. And I'm just, in my field, being the principal, the superintendent, I'm also the learning consultant, I've had to learn to keep up with the technology so I can be able to see whether the teachers are doing it, if they're following it, so having to continue to learn in that area so that I know that my teachers are instructing correctly when I go to observe them. But just also being very hands-on myself, I've just kept up with it. And having to keep up with 3 boys in their use of technology, yes. That has been a challenge. So I've had to like navigate what they're doing so I can whack-a-mole whatever they're going to do.
I think too,
Parental
technology
controls.
doesn't replace the relationships. And Nancy, I know you're in a relationship business, right? Many of us are. Like, you can't replicate that with AI. You can use it to help you gather facts and things like that, but it doesn't change the relationship that you develop. So lean on that as opposed to the technology. And I know there was another question back here. Did you guys hear that? A daily habit or a ritual that keeps you grounded as a leader.
I listen to music a lot, like those inspirational songs, like, look at the ocean, it's gonna be fine. You can dance. Music is definitely a thing that calms me down. What was that? Okay, maybe that was the intro to the music. Yeah, but just like in my car when I'm driving and I have a long way to go and I just need to detox my brain, I turn on the music and start crying to some songs.
No. No, that's after work. But I think walking, honestly, walking on a treadmill, doing some physical activity at my age now, I'm noticing that helps clear my mind before heading into the office. Yeah, the wine is for after the office, and then the walking is for before the office. If I did it the other way around, I don't think that would work too well.
I started with wine, now I'm on to French martinis. All right, so now we know what we're going to do. I can honestly say that my habit is that no day is the same. Every day brings a different challenge, a new. So I think my habit is to recognize that every day is going to bring a new challenge. So.
I need a French martini in my life. I just learned what that is.
If anyone wants to know what's in a French martini, it's vodka, Chambord, which is a raspberry liqueur, and pineapple juice.
Happy hour. Yes.
I don't. I have never been good at compartmentalizing, just with all full transparency. Every aspect of my life is present in every minute of the day. So when I get that call, my son is walking from class. It's the time I get the call in college, is when they're walking from class. I try to pick up that phone. If I get the call from my former colleague Jody that I have a legal matter to deal with, that's the thing I did at that moment. So I'm not great at compartmentalizing, and with technology, I'm pretty on 24/7. So I would have to be honest and say that I'm not great at it.
Yeah, and I would have to say, so our firm does 24-hour, 7 days a week emergency services. So I've always been in that mindset, and the technology of having the phone, I've gotten better now that, because I have staff handling things, where if I'm with my husband and my 2 children, I can't tell them to get off their phones if I'm on my phone, right? So I try to do that, but it is hard when, especially as a business owner, you don't know what someone might need. And I'm sure, Rosie, you, as an assembly person.
No, I don't have that. My staff started shaking their head as you asked the question. There's no off button. I'm on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the biggest question they ask me is, when do you sleep? I do sleep, but I've never been good at knowing how to turn it off. And I've tried. Someone said to me, go on a cruise, they can't find you there. And you can lie and say you don't have the Wi-Fi service, because it's really expensive on a cruise. So then I started cruising, and you know what I discovered? I don't like cruising. It's not for me. So I have tried, but it's just never been a thing that I've been able to do. I just can't turn it off. You can't turn off being a superintendent of schools, right? I get calls. I've been in the middle of surgery. My husband's been there, coming out of like anesthesia, and I get a call from the police department telling me, you need to shut down the building now. And from my phone, I've been like, Rick, shut down, code red, shut down the building. I've been in Trenton, where I've had to walk out of the floor and do a shelter in place through my phone. I don't know how to shut off being a superintendent of schools. Kids have situations and needs that go on. The building, there's a leak in the building at when was it, Rick? It was like Friday at 9 o'clock at night, I get a call that there's a leak in the building. It has to get resolved. I'm the superintendent. And the world around us today, as you turn on the news, there's something new every day. There's a statement that has to be written by an assemblywoman, or doesn't. But the world is, in New Jersey, when you turn on the news or when you get a tragic news of something that's happening in your district, I can't shut that off too, because that means so much to me and I want to be present there too. But I have 3 boys, and they have learned to manage through mom's life's wants and needs and everything that goes in between. So like, I know my son called my chief of staff yesterday and said, you have one task, and that's to get my mom to the senior dinner tomorrow night, which is tonight. So they've learned to manage my schedule to make sure that I'm present for my children and that I'm present through everything that I need to be in life, but I have never learned, and that's not just because of today, that's just the way I've always been. I've never learned to compartmentalize or turn it off, sadly.
But you should, you probably should.
You should. We like to give you advice, you say yes, that's a good thing.
All right, one more question.
Mom,
Uh-oh.
yes.
Oh, Mom.
Sort of a sensitive topic. Being one of the early female executives in corporate banking, I was faced with quite a bit of sexual exploitation by other senior executives on the male side. And for instance, at a Christmas party, I was indirectly propositioned. And when he didn't get what he wanted, I was supporting his team. He was pretty high level. All of a sudden, I was off the team and somebody else was on it. I chose to do nothing at the time. Again, this is quite a few years ago, and I'm just curious to know if any of you have been faced with this and how you've handled it.
I really haven't, to be honest with you. There was one situation where it was less sexual and more a dominating comment. I had no tolerance for anything but doing my job, and so I really, candidly, was never faced with something like that, thankfully.
I can't say that I was faced with someone in a position of power, but I mean, I have had colleagues that when they first meet me, maybe don't realize they shouldn't say things they say, but like I said, I always had a thick skin, and I always had a smart remark back. I've never had a knee 'em anywhere, but if I had to, I would, so I think they know that, and so that's happened far and few between, but I was very young, and, if I was somewhere, people say stupid things and do stupid things, and in construction, I've heard it all, so, but I just let it go.
I think that's what's gotten me through it. I don't know that it's been, certainly I've had men be in positions of power above me, but I've always kind of like made a remark back or laughed it off or said, oh yeah, you think that about me? And then I, smile it off and move on. Not that it's right, but I've always been good to give a good comeback or, laugh it off. As you can see, I like to make jokes of things sometimes when there's pressure in the room. So may not necessarily be the right way, but in the field that we're in, I'm not going to knee someone and end up in tomorrow's news. But definitely handling it with, a comment or, shooting from the hip or hitting it back or making a joke out of it or a slight, but never in a position where I felt that my job was going to be threatened if I didn't do what someone wanted to me. That hasn't happened to me. Maybe because my husband's like that really big guy there and he goes with me everywhere.
I'll tell you the one thing I do want to highlight, though, is that, regardless of where you sit politically, there are definitely things that are being said and done that I don't advocate, and I try to teach my children and, people around me that just because somebody in power is doing or saying something, that doesn't mean that it's appropriate behavior. And so I think, and I would ask everybody in the room to do the same thing, because there's a lot of interesting behavior going on at the moment.
Things are certainly shifting of what's acceptable today. Less tolerance, and I think people are shifting in what, I think women, we're also shifting in what we're willing to tolerate too as well. And we're not necessarily, I don't want to say that we're not in the position that women were, where would you go, Mom? Right? If you were in the corporate ladder and someone was in a position of power, back then I think that they could stop your career. Things could happen in a way, and no one really talked about it. Like you said, I never really did anything about it. Yeah, and they think they can get away with it. I'll tell you a story, and it's funny. The Me Too movement. When I first got sworn into the assembly, I was sat next to a Republican man, and it was right after COVID. And the man, one of the reverend was doing a thing, and he goes, "I'm going to ask you to do something you haven't done in a really long time, and that's to touch each other." And the Republican gentleman next to me went like this. And he had the biggest Me Too moment on his face, like, my career is crumbling down. What did I just do? Seriously, he went into full panic mode. And he goes, "I am so sorry. I don't know why I did that. Is that okay?" And I said, "Oh, it's totally fine, but my husband's going to get you at the end of it." So I think we're just living in a world where women are quicker to speak out because other women gave us the opportunity to do that. I think men are aware that women are going to be doing that without, the fear is always there, right? I think the fear will always be there of what could happen next, but I think that there were very brave women who allowed us and opened the door to be able to have those conversations, to report, to say what's been happening to us without necessarily the fear that was felt maybe 30, 40 years ago in the industry, or even just as much as 10 years ago.
Great. Well, thank you all for the great questions. Go ahead. Oh. No, please. I was just going to say, it's against the law now. Good point. It's against the law. With you, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I was on a training floor 40 years ago. It was very good. I don't think there's anything you want about that.
I think people who are in power, even when it's against the law, feel that they can do what they want to do.
Oh, really?
Really? It's a new concept. You didn't know?
All right. Well, thank you all for the great questions, and thank you all for the wonderful answers. We really appreciate it.